Republican transgender activist Blaire White was berated by so-called traditional family values conservative activist Lauren Witzke in a debate on whether the GOP, the Republican Party, should have an open tent including the LGBTQ community as well as other traditionally liberal groups under Trumpism. And Blaire White didn't really defend herself and basically just took it. I watched the debate. The bottom line is that Lauren Witzke was blunt, and she said that the LGBTQ community had no place for any type of platform in the Republican Party because of their lifestyle. And she wasn't impressed by Blaire White supporting anti-gender theory, constantly promoting this notion of the assimilation of the good trans woman who passes and says, there's only two genders, and says that they're really not women, and says that being transgender is a disease, even though that's a little bit more complicated. I'll give you that. That's a more complicated statement. That's not as problematic. But the bottom line is Blaire White realized the bottom line is that your GOP party doesn't care whether you have anti-transgender statements. They care that you're transgender. So the bottom line, Blaire, there is no such thing as a good transgender person under traditional family values Christians. I'm sorry, Blaire, that's just the way it is. There is no such thing as a good one under, in terms of lifestyle. Just like there's no such good thing as a good gay person who supports heterosexual supremacy, heterosexuality supremacy, like, what's his name? Milo Yiannopoulos. That's why Milo Yiannopoulos is, not Milo Yiannopoulos, I'm sorry, I flipped up. That's why Milo Yiannopoulos is trying to deconvert from being a homosexual, or at least try, or give the impression that he's trying. I do believe he's sincere. I do believe he believes in heterosexual supremacy. I know some of us on the left don't believe in that, but he does believe in heterosexuality supremacy. He's been brainwashed into believing that since his orientation does not produce kids, it's an inferior sexual orientation. It's the bottom line. Doesn't matter how loving it is, just doesn't matter. Can you produce kids or can you not? And that's part of the Orthodox Catholic doctrine. You have sex only to reproduce, period. That's the Orthodox Catholic doctrine, I should say, which is opposed to contraception, which is opposed to abortion, which is opposed to any type of sex that does not have the intent to procreate. So that is why he is trying to at least implement steps to eradicate his homosexuality. So the only solution, Blaire White, that she's giving you, this Lauren Witzke's giving you, is that either you stop being transgender, either you start transitioning to the gender she says you should be, or you can't have any voice in our Republican Party because the traditional Christian sect in the Republican Party is the boss, and that's just the way it is. So she's telling you to change. There's no such thing as a good transgender person. Doesn't matter how much you pass. He's not impressed by you passing. You could here's the thing. Here's the thing, Blaire. You could have transitioned, and I know you're opposed to kids transitioning, or I know you're opposed to kids changing their gender when they're young. I know you're against that, but you could have transitioned when you were 3 years old, and this woman would still tell you to go back to the gender that you were born. That is how bigoted, really bigoted that she is. Because, couldn't you say that if you changed your gender when you were 5 years old, and you lived 45 years being a transgender person, that Probably you're that type of the gender that you transition to. Nope, she doesn't believe that. You are the gender, sex you're born. There is no difference in her mind between sex and gender. Not one iota. Sex. If you're from a particular sex, you deep down have a particular sexual behavior that's identified with that sex. Sex and gender has no distinction. And Blaire, you just found out. No matter how much you try to assimilate and make yourself safe for the right, the anti-SJWs, they're still going to disagree their lifestyle, and they're still going to ask you to change.